All right, good evening. Monday, March 25th, just past 6 o'clock. This is the Board of Health meeting. We will call the meeting to order, and we will review the agenda. Is there any items that need to be added or removed?
Okay, we are going to do the minutes from January and February of 19. We're going to hold on the 2018 minutes.
Okay.
And I think that should do it.
Okay. With that change, with the minutes of the 24th meeting that is in front of us, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
Make the motion.
Make the motion. Is there a second?
Motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is a vote. And then on the second, we have the minutes of the 25th. I entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the 25th.
Motion on the table.
February 25th, 2019.
Yes.
All right, I just need a minute to look at it, please.
Sure. Actually, I was not at this one, so I will have to
Right.
abstain, so.
Did I call that meeting to order?
Paula, was that,
We double checked that. That was
Yeah.
the one we questioned, and it was Steve.
As Carolyn being vice
because I
chair
think
would normally
the
run the
vice chair
meeting.
would open the meeting. She may get a motion, she may entertain a motion, but
That was
It
the
would
one I
be-
double checked. And Steve did call to order that night. That you talking about the January one?
no,
I mean,
February
February
one and the
25,
February one.
19.
You know what, Steve, we can double check that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want you to do something you're not comfortable with. We can check it.
Yeah, you want me to go check it now?
No, we can check it. We can just bring that one to the next
And make
meeting.
a-
Table
Yeah,
it?
we can make I'll make a motion to table, motion to approve the minutes of February 25th.
Okay. The motion was on the floor, but it wasn't
Okay.
seconded, so
Okay.
no action is on the first one, so we'll just need a motion to table.
Yep, so I make a motion to table the approval of the minutes of the 25th.
Okay. Motion on the floor.
I'll second that.
And second that, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And one abstention, which was I was not present at that meeting.
I'm sorry, just for a point of clarification, are you holding on it or are you approving
Just
this?
to clarify who actually opened the meeting.
Right, okay, so we'll
We'll table it till next week. and
table it.
we'll-
Okay,
yeah.
great. Just wanted to make sure Paula got that.
And next, moving on the agenda items, we have a 6 o'clock discussion on the fee schedule. I know I had time to review this, and there's a nice summation here too with that, because just so that maybe some of the viewers can see, this is quite the project they've worked on here. So thank you for surmising this and stuff. This has been kind of looking in working on this for a while, so I'm sure you guys had a lot to do with it. Now, does this fee schedule fit with what the day-to-day business is, what you guys would like to do? Everything here, I take it, is...
If I may?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So it is, it's definitely something that we have looked at what we're spending time on, and I think that's part of the discussion that we were talking about. We've kind of all kind of participated in looking at what the fees are. If you look on here, and again, this is, you know, open for discussion. We wanted to kind of just make sure we gave it one last look and make sure if the board has any questions about it. So on the fee schedule, we're trying to simplify it, so we don't have, we have a lot of notes on here, and I think with recent changes to the codes and the input that we've kind of collaborated on to see what we are spending a lot of time on, you'll notice on the fee schedule, there's actually a lot of notes not to change fees. So we tried to balance those out with where we need changes. So looking at the food service and retail food, we've kind of consolidated that so that, for example, like the mobile food vendors, the ice cream vendors, there's certain things that are going to take more time. So a food truck that is doing full service food versus a truck that Eileen or Jordan is going in and it's just prepackaged ice cream. We don't need to raise the fee on it, but a food truck can take anywhere from an hour or more sometimes. So we went through, we have the suggested changes or fees here, and I kind of wanted to just see if you had any questions on what's here. And to be able to answer any questions for you. Taking a look at this, the spreadsheet that Paula had put together, remembering not every town is going to have the same exact fees. I think for the most part, we do have a lot of fees on here, and we wanted to make it kind of as easy as possible to follow. We do spend a fair amount of time on septics and wells, and so you'll see there are some changes there. We do have some hauler fee changes there also. We spend a good amount of time chasing haulers that may be operating in town illegally, trash haulers, sometimes septic haulers. So we have, that's more in line with other towns.
I'm sorry, quick question.
Sure.
What's the difference between a rubbish hauler, a garbage hauler, and a demolition hauler?
So
I mean,
that's,
septic and recyclables I can see.
yep.
I know what demo is.
And that's also something that I'm okay with
Consolidating
Consolidating.
into one permit for,
Sure, so we want to separate
Solid waste
whether it's
versus-
solid waste or recycling. So those trucks, we normally license solid waste and recycling trucks. So you could, the rubbish, the garbage, the recyclables, and the demo, those could also all be consolidated into solid waste or recycling hauler. And then septage hauler is something, that's a hauler that's going to take septage waste. So we could consolidate that down. I think it's a good point, Steve. And one, again, this is what we were working with, but I think it makes sense to
yeah, I mean,
consolidate
the
it
fees are all
if
basically
everybody's
the same, so.
comfortable, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what, I mean, you were advising to you guys, whatever is more simplified and will make it easier for you guys.
Yep, we can make that change. I actually, I like it.
We're using the same permit
Yes.
sticker on the truck, so.
Yes, yep. And it's actually, we actually use the same sticker, so there's a sticker that we use for the food trucks, and they actually have like a piece, an extra part of the sticker that goes over
Yeah.
trash hauler or septic hauler, and that becomes the same sticker we use for food. And then we also have, going through the process, Jordan has been working on donation boxes. So, donation box fees. So, I'm not sure if I have this. I think we may have to add that actually while I'm saying it out loud, because we do have the fee for that. Yep. And what was that fee, Jordan?
I believe it's 100 per bin.
Yep, okay, yep. One other area that I've, it's kind of, we've struggled with. I told you earlier in the year, usually around renewal time, we have people that we chase. So establishments that are permitted that may not get their renewals in, because obviously Paula and Eileen and Jordan all partake in calling vendors and trying to get them in, and we start the process early. On the late permit area, we want to discourage people from being late, so there is a increase for the late fee, and I'm hoping nobody has to get that fee. You know what I mean? So just to kind of discourage people from paying late, we have that. We've always had the double permit fee if somebody's operating after 30 days without a permit fee. And then operating without a permit, sometimes we are dealing with people that are have a function that they're not permitted. So I just made that consistent with the 30 days late. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like, hopefully the majority of our establishments or people that that are doing things the right way, they're never going to have that. It's really just more when we have to spend a lot of extra time trying to get somebody to come into compliance. The tobacco permit fee is increased, and I think I had mentioned before, we spend a lot of time on tobacco. You've had before you a number of hearings for people that have a permit that are not following the local and state regs sometimes. And so when we get to that point, you know, we want to make sure people are paying attention. The permit is a privilege. It shouldn't be something that is not treated seriously.
Okay. Great. Board members have any questions? Under swimming pools,
Yes.
you mentioned in a note, add spa fee.
Yeah, so I think this here, we have swimming and special purpose pools. What I'd like to do is just swimming, spa, and special purpose pools, so changing that title. I think this was meant each additional pool, and if I had to guess, I think that was, like if somebody has a pool and a spa, I think that the intent of that with the previous director was you'd have 200 plus 100 if they had a hot tub spa.
So if they had 3 swimming pools and 2 hot tubs, it would be 200 for the first and then 100 for each additional unit.
If they had 3 pools,
Yeah.
it would be 200 times 3, so 600, and then the spas.
So you're going to eliminate the additional
Okay, I
pool
see what
line?
you, okay, I think I see what you're saying, yes.
I mean, it's not like we have any facilities with that many pools here anyway, but
Yeah.
generally it's a swimming pool and a hot tub.
200, and the additional is 100.
Right,
A
but,
spa is 100, special purpose is 100.
but do you see how with the previous, he had additional pool, but I think it's supposed to be
It's supposed to, it could
additional
be
pool
additional
or
pool
spa.
or a spa or a
So
special
you're
purpose.
just adding that to the
Yeah.
If you have a pool and a hot tub, it's like 200 plus 100.
Yes.
Yes,
it's
that's
300.
correct, yeah. So I think it's just probably a matter of just fixing this so it says spa. So each additional unit, we could say. Is that, would you be comfortable with that?
Sure.
Okay,
So if they have 2 swimming pools, it's going to be 200
Plus
plus
one.
100. And then if they want to add a spa, so it's 100 for each additional.
Yes.
The extra, the additional swimming pool does not create a larger workload for you then, does it?
Oh, yeah.
oh yes, it does.
Every pool is-
Yes.
So, and again, I don't think any facility in town has more than 1 swimming pool.
Yeah,
Some have a swimming pool and a spa.
Yes.
And we
yes,
do it,
absolutely.
and the inspections are done individually as separate units. Each one has its own entity.
so I think what I'll do is I'll retitle this.
Yeah.
And then we'll do additional unit. or something of that term. So I can make these changes, and then if you are okay with what's here, I'm gonna make it, do a clean copy, make it look good, and then we can put it on for vote for next meeting.
Sure.
Does that sound okay?
Yep,
Yes.
excellent.
Okay, that's awesome.
Next on for discussion is the tiny homes bylaw.
Yes. So in your packet, you have a copy of the proposed tiny law. Just get to it here. Sorry, tiny law, tiny house.
Tiny lots for tiny homes.
Yeah. Tiny home proposed zoning bylaw. So wanted to just bring to your attention that this was being proposed. The planning board is going to have a hearing on this. I believe it's in April. And this is actually going to be a warrant article for town meeting. I think what had come about was that there was a proposed request by somebody who wanted to place a tiny home on their property. And, you know, these type of homes have become very popular in recent years. I think everybody's kind of seen a lot of, on HGTV, and, you know, I think a lot of people are looking into this for alternatives for family living. So this is a copy of the proposed zoning bylaw. The planning board will have a public hearing on it, and Eileen and myself have met with the town planner, Adam Menard, and the building commissioner, Caleb Moody, to go through, and this is the revised version of what we originally started from, to kind of take a look at different, so with the state sanitary code for housing, for building requirements because of the structure and what they have to include in the structure, and then also planning-wise where these are going to be allowed, and, you know, how many tiny homes can you have on a lot? You know, what kind of process do you have to go through to have that? So I wanted to just bring to your attention that this was going to be going through, because sometimes the Board of Health has to respond to concerns for housing. And we wanted to be part of the conversation about what this looks like. You know, recognizing that this is something that if somebody wants to propose it, let's figure out a safe and legal way to do it. So if you wanted to, if you had any proposed feedback or input, obviously you can attend the planning board meeting, but I also wanted to just give you a chance at the meeting to, you know, ask any questions, if we needed to bring comments back to the planning board.
Where do you guys stand on this?
So we went through to look and see what the intent was, and I think we're of the, we think it's a way for people to have a loved one be on their property, but in a separate living space. I think they have to be placed so that they're not going to impact neighborhood or the neighbors in a negative way. So somebody may want to put a tiny home on their lot, but you want to have some sensible requirements that it wouldn't be right next to your neighbor. You know what I mean? Setback distances.
As far as sewage goes, like, are they going to get connected to town sewer?
So that is something that, so it's two different considerations for that. Tiny homes in a neighborhood that has public sewer is going to be different than a tiny home being proposed on a lot that has private septic. If it's being proposed on a lot that has its own private septic system, then you would have to look at what's the capacity of the septic system. And if it is, whatever the capacity is, adding this is going to add additional flow. So you'd now be looking, and again, this would probably be coming to the board, you'd be looking at people that may, want to put a tiny home, but they don't want to upgrade their septic system. That's not how the septic system was designed. Say it's a 3-bedroom home, and it's designed for 3 bedrooms, and you're adding additional flow, that becomes a concern. It also becomes a concern for private wells. Obviously we deal with well reviews. Is the additional flow going to have an impact on the quantity that the well is producing? So it becomes, kind of slightly different conversations, whether or not it's public water, public sewer, or private well and private septic. So we have talked about this, and we feel that it's something that there's going to be further conversations, but if it was something where they have the public utilities, then you'd have to have the connections in accordance with the building department, plumbing, electrical. They'd have to be, it would be a permanent connection. So you'd have to go through the process of plumbing permits, electrical permits, for water and sewer.
This would add a burden to your workload as far as...
It definitely is going to be more work, if all of a sudden the town is inundated with tiny homes. One of the considerations that we had brought up, and I think it's under number 2, ironically, no more than 2 people may dwell in a tiny home. Eileen and I kind of thought, is this going to cause housing concerns where, somebody puts a tiny home on a lot and then they have 8 people living in it? Obviously that wouldn't meet the housing code, but we also recognizing that tiny homes, we're not proposing it as a rental. So it's not going to be a rental, it's literally like an in-law.
An outside in-law. Is there an individual that's putting this forward, or is this a group of people? Is it? It is, okay.
There was an individual that had proposed it, and they have a request, and so understanding that they were proposing something, the town planner created this proposed bylaw, and with input from all the town departments. So town departments have provided input for what they think would make sensible requirements for placing a tiny home on somebody's lot.
I'm sorry. go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say, do you know what the rationale was behind, if there's a caregiver, why the caregiver would have to reside in the tiny house?
With the immediate family member.
Yeah.
So grandma can't live in her house, she has to live in a tiny home with the caregiver.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm thinking if it was an in-law or something like
Yeah.
that, like why couldn't the grandmother live in a
means
little
that-
tiny house in the...
I can explain on that. What it
Yeah.
actually means is only immediate family are allowed to live in this, unless you're a caregiver.
Okay.
So if your mother and father-in-law were living there and something happened to your father-in-law, it was just your mother-in-law, but she needed a caregiver, then that's not an immediate family member, but they would
Okay.
have an allowance
I
because they
see.
were the
Okay,
caregiver.
I understand. Got it.
And I think we tried to put some of the explanations in the definitions too.
Okay.
So the definitions, if you just read them first, we try to put in here what the intent of some of these requirements are. So when you go through, to look at it, to refer back to the definition, it might make a little bit more sense. Eric, to your point, do we think this is going to create some work for the Board of Health? I definitely think that the Board of Health is going to have to review, placement, and it's, if there is going to be private utilities, we are going to be looking at it. I don't know if it makes sense to do a review on here. I don't know, maybe adding just a regular plan review to the fee schedule.
Basically, it becomes a private residence that's being constructed, independent of whatever structure happens to be there. So I'm kind of looking at it that way. You are now being asked to do a plan review for a brand-new residential structure that includes, if it's not public utilities, the private utilities. You're not going to approve a septic design if the flow's not correct, if it's too close to the abutters, if it's too, so it's basically, it's just a brand-new, small, private residence being built.
It's on a trail.
Well, there's a requirement to have it on a foundation here too, which is kind of a weird, I know it's just a draft, but be it a trailer with a skirt or be it secured to a foundation, depending on which line you're looking, it's still going to require all the utilities. So
Absolutely.
from my perspective is if they haul it in with a crane or if they build it on site, you guys are still going to be facing with a brand new residential structure and everything that involves.
And I do think, taking a look at what we have, we do have a review fee under Title V. So essentially, if somebody is proposing it, I
Yeah.
think we would be covered under
And
that.
well, and again, because well regs, we, if I recall, restrict a well for one residential structure. So now if we have a private well, we're going to have to be looking at, do we make them drill a second well, or do we look at variance requests? So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely going to be more work for the office.
It may be a variance request.
Yeah.
But it is something, I know I've said, once we kind of move through, the well regulation is something that
Yeah,
we'll be looking at. So it's
Yeah.
new,
I'm
to
kinda-
be able to add that to a well regulation going forward.
I'm kind of curious, where are the holes in the state sanitary code for housing? Our zoning bylaws and our temporary housing process that we have here. Are there that significant holes in those regulations that this needs to be proposed?
So
I'm glad it's the selectmen doing it and not us.
I'm glad you asked. I did reach out to the state, and they did not have any separate
Yeah.
advisement. Because sometimes, it's something that kind of comes up. It's newer. Sometimes they'll have like a policy or something, some sort of legal advisement on it. They did not. The code would apply to the residents.
Yeah.
However, the reason that we propose this, and this is not, I think there's one tiny home bylaw right now in the state. Only one. There's another one under review that's going to town meeting, I think, in the spring. And so there's not a lot out there right now. But that's why we have the requirements written in here, because Eileen and I, one of the things that we were concerned about is there's certain requirements, for like the height, the ceiling height, or, certain space for people.
Which is ridiculous when you look at what the code requires for
Right.
minimum space.
The code, the housing code wouldn't meet the tiny home without having this in place. So having these requirements would help us define what a tiny home has to have. Does that Does that make sense? Does that answer what you're asking about?
Generally, sufficient for tonight, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the state doesn't have a separate document.
No,
for
but
us
just
to-
looking at a tiny home as a residential dwelling,
Yep.
you know, does 105 CMR 410 specifically exclude or allow?
Excludes temporary housing, so you would have to consider this permanent housing.
Right,
So it definitely excludes temporary housing.
right,
And
unless it's on a foundation secured, and then do we get down to?
Then it's not temporary.
Right,
If it's hooked into utilities, it could potentially not be considered temporary. But if you put an RV next to your house and plugged it in,
Right,
that's
right.
temporary housing and it's not allowed.
but,
The board, to, I think, your point, Steve, the board for temporary housing, so say somebody has a fire at their home or some sort of water damage or flood,
exactly.
you know, we do get requests
Yes.
for temporary housing. So somebody would drop a RV
Mobile home
or a
or
trailer,
RV or
right,
something.
Like
mobile
a
home.
Right,
And they'll put those next to the house while the house is being rebuilt.
Right.
So they literally are living on their property,
Mhm.
but they're living in a mobile home. So those, we typically will give approval for like 6 months at a time.
right.
So the renovation may not be complete in
Mm-hmm.
6 months, but we do 6-month increments.
It's not a permanent solution.
Yeah, and they
Correct.
take over the utilities that the house would normally have had. So we do allow for a hook
Right.
into their
Yeah.
water and a temporary hook in to the sewer on a temporary basis for
Right,
6 months at a time.
And that does get approved through the building department. So the Board of Health has to give the approval for it to move forward, and then once that happens, then the building department will have their
All the utility
their
permits and
inspectors
everything,
check to make sure those connections are done correctly.
Also, the housing code is very clear about minimum space for any room that is a sleeping room. So there's square footage requirements for the first occupant.
150.
No, I believe, is it 150?
Anyway,
120 for the first occupant, 50 for the second, so
Yeah.
170
Yeah.
would be for two.
and windows
So
and floors and ceiling heights. And
yeah, so when we were looking at how many occupants, some of these tiny homes are built with very small bedrooms,
Yes.
but we wanted to include that they minimum had to meet the bedroom sleeping requirements of our housing code. And I think it's 170, which would allow for 2 occupants. So we didn't want to go by, no, we're only doing 1 person. We wanted to go by a standard of up to 2,
Right.
because potentially a marriage, a
Yeah.
caregiver, something could happen in their lives that would create the need for 2.
We actually, I think we did, because we talked about it, we have it under number 17. Bedroom size must be minimum of 70 square feet for 1 occupant and 120 for 2.
So 120 is the total.
Yes.
Yep. So that's in there because we had discussed, we want to make sure we have at least the minimum. Because who knows, you know, what
Yeah.
these tiny homes, how small they're going to be, so.
Sounds like a lot of work to be done and a lot of questions and concerns, so I think
But again, we
it's
can't-
sufficient enough to...
We can't create a regulation that undercuts the state code. So,
Right.
you know, if the state code says this is the minimum square feet, that's the minimum square feet. We cannot underwrite that.
And I think that's what the state, that was their, kind of, their statement to
Yeah.
us. The housing code stands,
Right.
but the tiny home proposed bylaw is going to outline any exceptions to
Yeah.
the state for this type of structure. So we did do a fair amount of discussion about it.
Yeah.
So we feel like this is, and again, because there's not a whole lot of these around,
Yeah.
we're going to be second or third.
It's going to be a lot of watchful waiting, and we'll see what
Yeah.
happens with that at town meeting.
So any, are you comfortable with what's in there? Is there any comments that, I mean, the public hearing is going to happen at the planning board
Yeah.
meeting, so
I
really
think
that
there's
would be the
there's a
time.
lot of contradictory regulations in here. Being a draft, I'm sure they're looking at all that anyway. Again,
It'll go
the
through legal.
caregiver and the family member have to be living in the home. Does it require to be attached to a foundation or the trailer wrapped with a skirt? They're both in there. So, again, it's a draft, and I understand that, so,
And it will go through town council.
oh, yeah.
Yep, so this, goes through the public process and then through legal. All right, awesome.
Moving
Thank
on.
you.
Director's issues. I see we have a thing called the Health and Business Expo, Tuesday, March 26th, the Lodge of Elks.
Yes, so I think I have the flyer in there. We've been participating, this is a chamber event, and we have a great relationship with the chamber. We've done a number of these, I want to say this is the third or fourth year going to this event. So it's a Health and Business Expo. The town is going to have a presence there. We'll have a table. We'll have all sorts of town information about upcoming, the concert on the Common, farmers market, just everything town related. Eileen and Jordan are going to be setting us up over there, and Eileen has been working working with the recreation department for farmers market and healthy eating. So we're going to promote that at this event. We also have, I'm not sure if I put in your packets, we have the rabies clinic. Animal control is keeping in as we do, I think this might be our fourth rabies clinic or so. We've got the rabies clinic in May, hopefully, and we have it right out here at the town hall parking lot. We've had a great response to that. It's open not just to residents, open to the public. The solid waste, the chamber and town cleanup day. This is also another chamber-town joint venture. And we do this every 2 years. So on the opposite year, we do the household hazardous waste day, and then we do the town cleanup day. So we have a lot of really good plans already laid out. We'll have metal recycling. We're going to have a tire drop-off from Central Mass Mosquito Control. Eileen has already got them booked. Republic Services is going to be donating their containers for trash and recycling. So we have a really good day planned already. So we're still building, still more to come. Central Mass Mosquito Control, their program is going to be starting up, I believe, the end of the month. And just wanted to let you know, last year we had a very busy year with Central Mass Mosquito Control. They, I'm sure everybody remembers the code red calls that we had to do. We had them at least every couple of weeks. So we will stay on top of that, do a lot of education this time of year. Flu season, wanted to let you know we have ordered some more vaccine, so the vaccine order has been placed. So we're happy about that. And communicable diseases, we have the report, the neighbor report. Okay. Paula, do we have it?
It should be in that folder.
Any significant changes at all, or nothing?
I don't think so, no. I don't see it here. I'll get it for the nurse, from the nurse, but,
Actually, I don't think we got it yet. She hasn't dropped off.
okay, because she usually drops that off with her
She hasn't dropped
invoice.
it off.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be coming.
All right, so.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done her.
All right, thank you. So we'll, it's actually the end of the month, so she probably just hasn't come in yet. All right, so we'll bring that for next time.
And then anything new on inspections at all?
I think we have some updates on.
Yeah, we have, I think probably the third time it's open and closed, but the BP across from Ronnie's up in that area, where they did the nice new intersection, 860 South Bridge, has been closed for probably, yeah, about 6, 7 months. That is reopening again with new owner, saying they will not have alcohol this time, but lottery, tobacco, gas, and convenience items. I think you've seen the signs all over town. Everyone waits for the signs, but Ronnie's is opening on April 4th, so we'll have a seasonal inspection there. And shortly after, Crystal Caves will open, I think like the 3rd week of April. Coco's has already opened. Them are our 3 big seasonals that we'll work on. And then a couple food trucks coming to town that are going to license annually. We have had a lot of interest in buildings in town for food establishments, just in planning stages, looking for space. So nothing to report on yet, but we are, working through to determine if them spaces will be opportunities. Jordan, do you have a production for your percentages?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's going on April. We're probably in the mix of 60 or 70% to 80% to get to where we need to be for our June numbers. I have no doubt that Jordan's going to meet them. We have added an additional inspection to our schools, so they will now be done 3 times this year. And we've also added additional inspections to our long-term facilities, like here in Brookdale, so they will go up to 3.
Excellent. Excellent. So we can certainly, in regards to the next meeting, we would do the regular email. I think that works the easiest instead of doing
Okay.
that.
Yep.
And if nobody has anything else, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion, there's a second. Second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All approved. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.